Okay, love, 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 love. This whole room is full of love. I love it. See, I love it. We use that word in so many ways. We use it, and this time of the year, oh, hearts and flowers, and Warren's right. You men better go out and do something about that. But, candy, movie, dinner, and cards. But yes, I think this, I was sitting here and getting sparked by the feeling of this room, because this room was yeah. And it's like love everywhere. Everybody's talking and sharing with their friends and their family. And it just feels so good. And I'm so glad to be here. But the most important thing about love is understanding what that word means in your lives and in what you do every day, in the people that you meet, the members of your family. And you have to understand, I know I told my kids if they ever said the four-letter word in front of me, they'd have to find out what it meant in the dictionary, because I wasn't going to allow them to go out and say it anywhere. Didn't matter what I said in the house. But we won't talk about the house, okay? But the fact is that this month is Love Month, Heart Month. And for me, it was a process of trying to understand through the years even what that really applied to. We can learn it, we can hear it, but how does it affect us? So I have to say to you, how did I get to this point is to tell you that I am a heart attack survivor. And with that comes a change and a great challenge in your life to ever not approach, but have it happen to you. Because much of our life is based on, I don't think that's going to happen to me. That's going to happen to someone else. So let's go back a little bit and let me tell you a little bit of how I got to that point of my life later on in life. I was really raised on a farm in Morrison, Colorado. We had cows and chickens and snakes and all the goody things, and especially snakes. My dad wouldn't let us get around the bull snake, but I thought it was cute. And I would eat little pellets, that come for the horses and not for me. But the alfalfa sure tasted good. But we had, my cousins were all there, my 3 brothers and my sister. We all lived on the farm. But my dad was a horticulturist, and he wanted to break away from Denver area and move to Colorado Springs. So by doing that, he moved us all in 1954 to Colorado Springs, where he continued on with his business. And with that, we, of course, grew and got into the community. He was part of the community. And we all carried out like you normally do with kids. You get active things. My mom got us into dancing, and we were doing all the little kid stuff, playing little football games, and and gradually we get into high school, and gradually they graduated. We graduated, went to college, the things that you do in society that have followed in a regular routine. But then I went off to college in Adams State in Alamosa, Colorado in 1964. And because my family, in our family, I know that my father and my mother loved us. There was love in our family, but not really talked about. There was not a lot of affection in our family. And therefore, with that aspect of life, we really, just went on. And we learned, like all of you probably learned, from books, from the Bible, from wherever people were talking, from this word L-O-V-E, what does that mean? And so as I went on and I went to college, even my dad, he would take care of everything. So I had no real learning of society or imaging of life as it should be. And within that process, I didn't even know how to write a check when I went to college, and that might have been a good idea. But I didn't have a credit card either, so I guess we'd just go along. But I didn't graduate from Adams State. I came back home in 1967 to work in the greenhouses with my dad's business. He was, maybe some of you remember, if you're natives of Colorado Springs, remember Pikes Peak greenhouses out by the dog tracks. Those were my dad's greenhouses and the ones by Columbia Street down by District 11. And he grew the finest roses and pomps and carnations because they were a top flower for our state. And so we worked the summers, and it just is routine. It's best not to give you my whole autobiography. I might be here 3 hours. So that's best not. But in the process, we still just, went along as a family. My father took care of college. But I think that the whole object back then was that we go to college to find the right man, get married. The daughters were not involved in the business. My sister and I were not involved in the business, just my brothers. And we went along with that. Then in 1968, I went back to college down at Pueblo. And at that time is where I met my husband, and we got married. And in 1969, we were married, and we had 2 wonderful children who are now grown and have their own individual lives. My daughter lives in Denver. My son lives here in Colorado Springs. He's a hot air balloon pilot. Oh, I said that right, a hot air balloon pilot. But again, it's routine, life, love, unconditional love. All these little things were just part of the society movement, part of the routine for my life. And then the sadness comes when I was divorced, 1981, and I had to become a single mom. And I'm sure that many of you know that that's not an easy task, especially when you have an 11-year-old and a 12. And so with that process of time, I had to certainly be a mom and a dad, go through all of the changes, all of the just everything that the kids had to do, their football, their cheerleading, all that stuff, just to make sure that I broke all the rules of my family. I was determined to love them more, to tell them how much I love them every day. And even if I was talking to him on the phone, I told him I loved them. Because it was a matter of learning that's something I was missing, something that was lost in me. And as time went on, of course, my daughter then, they graduated from college and went on, got married. She has her own family. My son, he is doing well with the company that he works for. But for me, I was alone. And being alone, I really didn't know what to do. So I just worked, had a job, continued with that. I got involved in the theater, writer, I just did a few things on my own because I like to do it. But not having that companionship around, I was by myself all the time, was again a loss, but that was in part my fault. So time went on, but then it happened. Those things that you put aside and you think, oh my gosh, my friend, oh Lord, that's not going to happen to me. I hope that never happens to me. I'm not going to happen. We're fine. We're just not going to have that kind of thing happen. My life is good. My health is good. I'm going to be good. But that's not what happened. And about April of 2007, things started changing in my health. And so I couldn't believe that I was having problems breathing and coming to work and feeling this strange irritation pain in my arms. And it took a little while before I realized, it wasn't arthritis, and it certainly wasn't going away with Advil and all the other good things that you can take for pain or anything that you feel that you need to overcome. But what happened was I came to work and I didn't feel very good, and I asked my supervisor if she would take me to the ER, and she drove me there quickly. She says, "Are you okay?" when we got there, and she dropped me off and left me there. And it's like, okay, I guess I'll wobble in and figure out what to do. But it was at this point that I started trying to understand what unconditional love was, because unconditional love with my son, he was the most valuable thing and still is the most valuable person in my life, because he always was there for me. And after the surgery and all that happened, my son stayed with me for 2 weeks and stayed and cooked, made sure I didn't need a sodium, just gave me the potassium, and made sure that I watched what I ate. And the emotion that I had, because it was just given. It was given to me. And through that, I grew closer to my son. He grew closer to me, became my friend. And there are many stories that I could tell you of the unconditional love that he gave me. But I started learning that unconditional love is something that maybe we forget because it is not really visible. It's something from the heart, something that comes freely, something that some people don't know how to accept because they've been such givers themselves. And I always was a giver in my life, taking care of my kids, taking care of other people. But when it comes back to you and flows back into your heart, comes back to you, it's a given. And for me, I was so blessed to have my son at the hospital, staying with me, taking care of my wounds that were oozing through my legs because they took 2 arteries out of one leg and one out of the other. And those wounds wouldn't heal, and I ended up with MRSA eventually. But as we went along, he was there. And he continues to just do these surprises to me. And to me, he's teaching me that unconditional love we all have, that we all can do, that we all have already done, to our friends, to our families, to those maybe less fortunate than we are. It's just giving. And for me, it's something that you don't want to give up and you don't want to forget, but sometimes you're not aware you're doing it. And yet there it is. You give of your heart. You take and receive with no questions, no answers, and just hold on to it. Because that's what love is all about. Love is what heals, and love is what gains our respect for each other and our closeness to one another. And I thank you for being here. Thank you.